Good morning. Happy Monday. So, the Iran thing, I mean, if you need evidence that we're losing pretty decisively, is so far the results, the tangible results of the Iran war are that sanctions have been lifted on Russian oil, at least by the U.S. Sanctions have been lifted on Iranian oil, again, by the U.S. And the U.S. and NATO have decided to withdraw from Iraq. The Iraqi resistance have used this opportunity to get rid of the hated Americans out of Iraq, and I saw a video of a convoy of U.S. troops and personnel leaving sometime in the night or the early morning from Iraq. Doesn't seem super cool. Doesn't seem super cool. And on the economic side, a lot of the nations that are closer to the Strait of Hormuz that rely on Middle East oil and gas have seen their prices skyrocketing. I did learn a fun little tidbit about the oil trade. Apparently, the way these oil contracts work, and take this with a grain of salt, because this is just what I learned and I haven't been able to verify it. I don't really care. But apparently there's a bunch of oil tankers parked off the coasts of the recipient states, like the Philippines and Australia and places like that, that are full of oil that aren't unloading. And you're going to ask, why not? Well, because they get paid the average of the last 7 calendar days of oil prices when they offload, and they're waiting for the oil prices to kind of normalize at a higher rate so they get a better deal. So that's cool. It's always cool to see people profiteering off war, I like it. I'm sure you like it. But the economic effects, we're just starting to see them. Not only is oil prices going to spike, but because everything runs on oil, it's either made out of plastics, which are made out of oil, made out of other oil products, transported by oil, diesel, gas, gasoline, you know what I'm saying? Everything runs on oil, so the prices of everything are going to skyrocket. All this nonsense with targeting shipping that the Europeans are doing, targeting ships that have purchased Russian oil or gas, even if they're not flagged as Russian. That's going to massively disrupt things because, maritime insurance prices go up. And I don't really understand it, but apparently, these ships are bought and sold constantly, legitimately bought and sold constantly. You just did a shipment to Europe, and now you need to pick up a shipment in China, so you sell the ship that's in Europe and you buy a ship that's in China so that you could load your goods and transport them to where you need them to be. So not knowing if a ship is sanctioned or if a ship is going to be targeted or whatever, that puts a strain on the maritime industry. Again, it's going to increase prices, since the U.S. is now a net importer of just about everything. I remember, what was it? Not even 10 years ago, we were a net exporter of agriculture products, food, and now we're a net importer, which is awesome, which means that the food prices all around the world are going to affect the U.S. even more. And we also import about 5 million tons of urea, which is produced from natural gas. And it's super critical to corn and I think soy and basically grain products, or things that we classify as grain products. I think technically corn is a fruit, but you get what I'm saying. in the U.S. because of our terrible, terrible foods and our terrible government control about what foods we should be eating, think that, we're heavily reliant on corn. Not just for like corn chips and, ear of corn with your steak and potatoes, but like corn oil and high fructose corn syrup. I mean, all this stuff is reliant on the import of urea. So the prices everywhere, they're just going to skyrocket. And Trump's little deal about, somebody made a killing on this because, Trump announced that he was going to blow up all the power infrastructure and power plants in Iran. And the prices of oil shot through the roof. And then he said, apparently last night or this morning, that, Iran's negotiating with us, so I'm putting a 5-day pause on it. And oil prices just dropped. And then Iran said, no, we're not talking to them. And oil prices are skyrocketing again. So I'm sure, people are making people, I don't know if you'd qualify them as people, a killing in the stock market on oil prices and oil futures and things like that. And the IEA has, they're releasing 400 million barrels or something like that of oil, which is the biggest release of oil they've ever done to try to keep the oil prices down. Again, it's not working. Oil prices keep going up. Trump's saying everything he could say. I mean, who can trust the man at this point? I don't know. I don't understand. I don't understand why people are still on the Trump train, the Trump MAGA train. Now, I am all about, make America great again. I'm all about that, but I'm not about Trump's version of it, because Trump's version of it does not seem like it's making America great at all. It makes it seem like we're in the last throes of a dying empire, which I strongly suspect we are. And, if we do have the severe economic calamity that I am personally projecting, I think that might be the end of the American empire. We might stumble along for a few more decades, but we are unsustainable. Our government is not responsive to the people at all anymore, and you can only do that for so long. A few days ago, time blurs, Israel struck Iran's nuclear power plant. And then, was it yesterday or the day before? I was busy this weekend, had company. Iran struck the Dimona power plant in Israel. Like, what? Like, I mean, nuclear catastrophes are bad. I have never seen a nuclear power plant destroyed in a war, but I can only assume that's bad. I can only assume it would lead to decades of issues in the surrounding areas. And Israel's not that big. And I think the Dimona power plant is in the south west corner of Israel. So, I mean, not only would that screw up Israel if that gets destroyed, I mean, in theory, who knows how much of Israel would be contaminated by it, but I believe it's also in close proximity to Jordan and the UAE, and not UAE, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Egypt. And, Palestine, whatever we're considering to be Palestine these days. Huge humanitarian catastrophe. Someone said in my comment section that, the F-35 that was shot managed to land. It wasn't shot down, it managed to land. Well, you know what? All planes that are shot down manage to land. It's called a crash landing. It's in the name. Sometimes we shorten it to crash, but it was shot down. We know by the way. We know. We've seen the video from the anti-aircraft imaging that Iran released. We saw it get hit. We saw that. The U.S. confirmed it was hit. We haven't seen pictures of it. Isn't that odd? Now, you're going to trust the government to say, it landed. Just minor damage. Yeah, it landed. Show me the pictures. Show me. Confirm it. Our government lies to us nonstop 24/7. And, during a war, I completely understand it. I understand why the government would lie to us about the number of casualties, the number of injuries, the number of systems destroyed. We learn a lot about the damage that Iran is doing to our interests in the Middle East from Iran. We learn a lot about the damage that Iran is receiving from the U.S. and from Israel. Each side are liars. They're both lying to you because propaganda is a part of war. Information is part of war. I'm not a scholar of war, but every war ever has engaged in propaganda. You don't tell the other side how much you've lost. You don't tell the other side, what damage they've done to you. You keep it a secret. Iran says that they hit the Abraham Lincoln. We say they didn't. All we know is that the USS Abraham Lincoln has moved a long way away from the shores of Iran. Do with that as you will. There was the fire incident. Was that on the Ford? I think might have been on the Ford, where fire broke out in the laundry room, and it spread throughout the ship. Maybe. All we know is it's heading back to Crete to get refit and repaired in the middle of a war. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I don't claim to know. I am just guessing. The U.S. is pulling out of Iraq. Why are they pulling out of Iraq? Well, because they were getting hammered, not just by the Iraqi resistance, but by the Iranians. They were sending drone after drone and missile after missile into the U.S. base there. What do they call that? The green zone? It was getting hammered. The F-35 was shot down. Candy coat it all you want. It was hit, and it had to land. Was it a hard landing? Was it a crash landing? Was it just minor damage? You don't know. I don't know. But it was hit and forced to land. That's being shot down. You want to get pedantic on me? Yeah, sure. It was shot down. At the very least, it's going to have to be refurbished. At the most, it's probably scrap. Interestingly enough, the Nimona power plant, which arguably was the most protected infrastructure in Israel, watching the videos of these Iranian missiles come in, you see maybe one or two missiles going up to intercept it. That should tell you something. That's information. I know our allies are running out of these Patriot systems. I know that we are running out of these Patriot systems. And the Patriot systems haven't been super duper duper effective. There's one video I watched where they launched at least a dozen interceptors to take down, I think it was 2 Iranian missiles. And I don't think they hit either one of them. Now, I'm not saying they don't get hits. I'm not saying they don't get interceptions. They say they do. I have no reason to believe they don't. But it's at a few $1 million each, $1 to $3 million each for these interceptors. You launch a dozen of them, that's $24 million, plus or minus, to take down a missile that probably didn't even cost $1 million, and then have it fail. And what goes up must come down. So, where do those interceptors land? How much of the damage that's being done in Israel right now is the result of these interceptors missing and landing and starting fires and blowing up and destroying buildings and homes and blah, blah, blah. It's just all bad. We've destroyed 80% of Iran's launchers, according to us, and yet they keep launching, and sometimes they launch a lot, sometimes they launch a little, and then we destroy 80% of the remaining 80% or remaining 20%, and they keep launching. It's like, I mean, maybe we're not. And then we got ground troops going there. I read an article. It was an interesting article. They were thinking that the Marines are headed there to not invade Karg Island, which would be just ridiculous, but to use to take over Chinese and Iranian oil tankers that are leaving the Straits of Hormuz, to board them and seize them. That's interesting. You know who else heavily invested in missiles? China. You know who's in striking distance of a lot of U.S. infrastructure and bases and things like that? China. I mean, we built a whole bunch of bases surrounding China, South Korea, Japan, and the little islands below Japan, Philippines, Taiwan. I mean, there's a lot of bases, a lot of U.S. bases within striking distance of China. Do we really, we're having our hands full with Iran. Do we really want to start attacking Chinese shipping? Do we really want to start attacking Chinese shipping? I mean, is that what a competent, sane actor does? Expand a war that you're having incredible trouble with? And this was so predictable. Was it Yemen, the Houthis? They shut down the Red Sea. A nation that's a fraction of the size of Iran shut down the Red Sea. Sure, they were getting help from Iran. I'd believe it. Seems like they're allies with Iran. But they managed to do it. And we spent a whole bunch of money trying to stop the Houthis from attacking Israel and stopping the shipping through the Red Sea and things like that. We spent a whole bunch of money. We launched a whole bunch of really expensive ordnance into, I want to say it was Yemen, for no effect. Essentially no effect. Then I had another brilliant commentator in my comment saying that actually Russia's losing the war in Ukraine. You just have to ask yourself, by what metric? By the propaganda that Ukraine's putting out? Every night that Russia launches waves of drones and missiles into Ukraine, the Ukrainians say that they shoot down 90 to 98% of them. Every time, all the time. And yet they don't have power stations anymore. They don't have power transfer stations. Their electrical infrastructure is completely degraded. But they shoot down 90 to 98% of them every time, using Patriot interceptors, which haven't shown to be the most accurate, reliable interceptors, and they don't have a lot of them. I think it was like the first 6 days of the war, we being the U.S. and Israel, shot more PAC-3 Patriot interceptors than Ukraine shot during the entirety of the 4+ years now of the Ukraine conflict. And they're shooting 90 to 98% down. PAC-3 interceptors have basically a 0% chance of shooting down hypersonic missiles, and yet Ukraine claims they shoot them down. So we're going to listen to Ukraine. Now, again, I'm not faulting Ukraine. I mean, propaganda is part of war. Again, I'm not saying that Ukraine is wrong or bad or anything like that. I'm not condemning Ukraine. I'm just saying that, it's propaganda. When they say they killed 1 million+ Russians, that's not actually borne out by any evidence other than what Ukraine says. There's an independent analysis that was done by it was a newspaper. There's two different newspapers. I think one was an anti-Russian newspaper that's based out of, I think it's the Netherlands, and a British newspaper. And what they did is they go through Russian news articles, they scour them about notices of death, funerals, military funerals, and they found a significantly lower death count, like by an order of magnitude, or two orders of magnitude, at least an order of magnitude. And Ukraine, unlike Iran, is a fairly flat country that doesn't have a enormous stockpile of missiles. They were trying to build those Flamingo missiles, which may have had some minor success, but they really don't have any success at that. They rely primarily on drones to attack mainland Russia. Drones, of course, move much, much slower and fly much, much lower, yada, yada. But the Russians have had artillery dominance from the beginning. They've had aerial dominance once the Ukrainians started running out of interceptors, Patriot interceptors and Iris-T and all the other European off-brands of anti-air missiles. So they've been able to launch these bombs, giant bombs, and then they turned them into gliders, and then they turned them into smart gliders for fractions of the cost of what the U.S. spends on JDAMs and things like that. So they have a lot of standoff munitions that they're just able to pound the piss out of Ukraine. And for whatever dominance Ukraine might have had at the beginning with drones, Russia has a massive industrial complex where they've just been churning out the Garand-style drones, which they got from Iran initially as Garand. And then they modified them, upgrade them, improve them, and they just churn these things out by the hundreds, if not thousands a day. And they launch them by the hundreds, if not thousands a day. But Ukraine's winning the war, according to this commenter. You know, every day, if you watch, what is that, the Military Strategy channel with Dima? I forget the name of the channel. But he uses videos of, you know, the Ukrainians attacking Russian troops and the Russian videos of drones attacking the Ukrainian troops to figure out where the front line is. And it just marches slowly but surely. Just marches. I think the Russians only have a little bit of the Donbass left to capture. They've got cauldrons everywhere. I haven't been following the Ukraine war much since the Iran war kicked off. But it's just a constant march. Slowly, incrementally taking land. Ukraine is they're out of battle-hardened troops. They're out of experienced troops. They're out of the high-end troops. They're relying on conscripts forcibly taken off the street. I know everybody wants to say that Russia's doing the same thing, but Russia hasn't committed their entire military to this operation. I don't know of any metric where you can say that Russia's losing this war. Not even economically. I mean, we've lifted the sanctions. Oil prices are going through the roof. Russia's a net exporter of oil. Do the math. They're making money. I saw a projection that, you know, if things keep up, that Russia's going to make like $250 billion this year selling oil. More. What more do you need? I mean, how are they losing? I don't understand the Trump-tards who watch Fox News and get no information from anywhere else and expect it to not be pure bullshit. And the people who watch like liberal outlets like MSNBC or whatever and expect it to not be pure bullshit. Like this is the reason why I watch content from all sides of the spectrum, not because I'm endorsing any particular side. Again, I'm a monarchist. I strongly suspect we'll see a monarchy here soon, or something akin to it. But you can't get your information from one source. You're not going to get accurate information. And finally, because I don't want to be all black pill, I do think that good things can come and most likely will come from the U.S. losing its empire status. When the Soviet Union broke up, when the Soviet Union collapsed, it was calamitous. There were hard times in the Soviet Union. Back in the 90s, it was all drug dealers and prostitution, and it was all bad stuff. And then Putin, for whatever you want to say about him, reasserted authority, reasserted control, reasserted law and order, started making decisions in the best interest of the Russian people. And Russia is doing very well today. Whatever you want to think about it, oh, they're a paper tiger, blah, 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 blah. You know, their cities are clean and well maintained. They are able to engage in the Ukrainian conflict with minimal debt, minimal. Like the percentage of their debt to their GDP is just a fraction of what ours is, a small fraction of what ours is. And that's after prosecuting a war for 4 years. And I'm not like trying to blow sunshine up Russia's skirt. I'm just saying that like there will be hard times ahead. But we can recover. And we will recover. We won't be the US that we were. That's my prediction. I mean, if this all goes tits up, worst case scenario, and the American empire collapses. If. I'm not saying it will, but if it does. But we'll pull out of it. We'll pull out of it. We will rebuild, reorganize, restructure, retool. The U.S. has a lot of advantages. We've got almost an entire continent to ourselves with lots of natural resources. At one time, we were the industrial powerhouse of the world. We were self-sufficient in energy. We were self-sufficient in food. We can get there again. Anyway, that's all I got for you today. Sorry for being a Debbie Downer. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.